Several Des Moines suburbs are threatening to pull out of DART.
They say they're just paying too much and that Des Moines isn't paying enough. The suburbs say they're paying 67% of DART, but only getting 26% of the services. Des Moines says the cities want them to pass a franchise fee. Now, DART says if Des Moines would pass a 2.5% franchise fee, it would cover a portion of the city's contribution. DART says that would lead to at least 10 years of financial stability while the services addresses its budget deficit and revamps their system. Riders say DART's service is essential to everyday life.
I have no way. I rode the bike to work the other day. It was like a 2-hour bike ride. So most definitely the buses are definitely a necessity.
And while Des Moines and the suburbs do not agree on how participating communities should fund the system, we are going to continue to have conversations with the city of Des Moines in hopes of finding a path forward.
Right now, DART is facing a nearly $5 million budget shortfall.
Right now in Warren County, Hartford residents are raising concerns over the cost of putting in new sidewalks. KCCI's Nicole Tam is there live. Nicole, how is the city addressing these concerns?
Alex, good morning. Well, the city, as well as the mayor last night, heard from dozens of residents during a meeting just on those concerns over the sidewalks. One of the streets that's under consideration of adding these sidewalks is where I'm standing right now. This is North Fine Street, and you can see behind me plenty of sidewalk here. But it's kind of interesting because you also see a mix of grass and sidewalk paths, and that's kind of the discussion. How far will that go? Where will it go? And who's paying for it? A lot of those questions were talked about in last night's meetings from those residents. But all of this did start back in August when the city sent out a letter to those residents saying that they need to add sidewalks to their property there. So that's where all of this frustration and questions kind of started back in August when that letter went out there. They did say that this could happen within the next 2 years, and the letter also said the goal of this was to improve the safety of roads in town. The notice also showed that property owners are responsible for the installation cost. Price tag of that, though, would range between $6,000 and up to more than $30,000. Hartford's mayor did tell the crowd last night that the city is working to apply for a grant to cover the project costs, but still, there are many questions and concerns from the group.
There's a time and a place for everything, the way the economy is right now, and there's people here that cannot afford it, and the impression I get from the people up there is that this was kind of heavy-handed, and there's no care or empathy for the people that can't afford it. It's just like, you're going to do it no matter what, and that's why this is kind of hard to swallow.
And just listening to that council meeting last night, still a lot of moving parts as far as questions and logistical questions that some residents have, including how wide the sidewalk should be, how much of it beyond their property they would have to cover for that. All questions that council members will be considering and thinking about and also analyzing in the coming days. They will be taking up this issue once again during the regular meeting coming up next Tuesday. We're live in Hartford this morning. Nicole Tam, KCCI 8 News, Iowa's news leader.
Communities passionate about what's next for their town and how to handle it. Nicole, thank you. Now we go to Marshalltown. Authorities are urging people to identify, report, and prevent hate crimes. Communities, state and federal leaders came together last night, and it's a part of a nationwide push to build trust between law enforcement officials and community members. Police want people to feel empowered to speak out when they see a possible hate crime unfold.
Trauma has a devastating effect in the life of a child, in the life of a family. Trauma can impact that child's development, that child's growth. And so it is incredibly important for us as a community and as service providers to be supportive to these families.
Crimes in general are underreported, and then when you add to it a hate motivation that amps up the tension, the emotion, the violence oftentimes, it's very difficult.
Hearing from a few perspectives there on the impact of hate crimes, and you can report a hate crime directly to the FBI. That number is 1-800-CALL-FBI.
New numbers show school threats have been skyrocketing as the school year has been getting going in Iowa, and state leaders are trying to stop the violence before it happens. So for some perspective here, last year, the state got and investigated 22 tips of possible planned school attacks. Well, in just the first few weeks of this school year, at least 39 tips have come in. And we haven't even been in school a month yet. The chief of the governor's School Safety Bureau gave a presentation to the State Board of Education yesterday, saying it's really helpful when people upload the potential threats to the Safe and Sound app that rolled out last year.
Being able to have those either screenshots, of what is being said on social media, or the videos that they submit sometimes, is very helpful in us making sure that we're doing all we can to prevent that violence ahead of time.
That free app runs 24/7, and tips go right to a dispatch center and to law enforcement so they can look into it.
Happening tomorrow, the Southeast Polk School District will hold a grand opening for its new middle school. It's for 6th and 7th graders. The 200,000 square foot building houses more than 1,100 students, and that grand opening event runs from 10 in the morning until noon. There's going to be free pancakes and a chance to tour the new facility. And enrollment is up at Iowa's 3 public universities. The University of Iowa saw an increase of more than 600 undergraduate students from last year. Iowa State has more than 25,000 undergrads, and UNI's total enrollment jumped nearly 3% from last year. New this morning, high school students in Des Moines and Indianola with good grades will be offered free tuition at Simpson College. That could mean a lot to those students. Students must have at least a 3.5 GPA. They must be eligible for FAFSA, and the offer is only open to those enrolling for the first time at Simpson as a first-year or transfer student in the fall.
Well, today, an annual event to help homeless veterans here in the metro will move to a new spot. Des Moines Homeless Veterans Stand Down will be just off Southeast 14th and MLK. Veterans who need help can get health and dental checkups and haircuts and clothes and meals. All this starts tonight and it runs through the weekend.
And speaking of tonight, there could be a chance for rain, so that would be something different. It's been very calm the last several nights. But John, what is the timing of this, and what part of the state's going to see it?
Yeah, well, as far as later on this afternoon and evening, that's a better chance for any type of these showers to pop up. Very isolated. It's not going to be an exact washout, but we need some rainfall, and the best chance will be later on today. Right now, as we start things off, it's a pretty calm start. 66 degrees in the metro. The dew points, they're still in those mid-50s, which means it's still comfortable outside. But over the next couple of days, especially Saturday going to Sunday, even as we start off next week, we'll feel a little bit more of that humidity, and that sticky range is where you can expect it, as temperatures are still going to be staying above average. Here's your dog walking forecast. Gretchen enjoying some of the sun that we have been seeing over the past couple of days. Not so much sunbathing for today. So sorry, Gretchen, you're not going to be able to see a lot more of that sun, because we are looking at more of the clouds moving in those upper 70s by the noon hour. Mostly dry, isolated showers after work. I'll be going over the rain chance in the full forecast.
Well, thank you, John. We want to get a check at your roads really quick as we head into 545. Right now, your drive times are looking really good. If you're heading into downtown from Ankeny, it's going to take you 10 minutes. From Indianola, 18. From Adel, 23. And from Newton, just a 28-minute drive. Now, I'll get out of your way so you can see what your roads are looking like. I-35 near Slater is a little bit backed up right now. We do know there's construction happening in this area if you're heading out that way. I-80 at noon, it is dark and early this morning. Make sure those headlights are cranked on. And I-80 near Dexter, you can see some of those clouds that John was talking about earlier right here. As for right now, your drive times are looking good and normal. Green all across the board. It means we're not looking at any slowdowns or delays for your Friday morning commute right now.
Thank you very much. And we are learning why more athletes are suing the state over a sports betting investigation.
Yeah, 10 student athletes and a basketball manager are now listed as plaintiffs. Their attorneys say Iowa DCI agents illegally obtained the data used in that case. The lawsuit admits these athletes did place wagers and broke NCAA rules, but they have a problem with how agents conducted that investigation. They say agents used geofencing technology to cast a virtual net of athletic around athletic facilities without a warrant.
Our founders did not want law enforcement to be able to freely search people's private belongings in their houses in order to see whether or not they're committing any type of crime.
Some of these athletes pleaded guilty, and others had their charges dropped, and others were never charged at all. Iowa DCI has not responded to the filing in the case.
It's almost 5:43, honoring 2 Iowans killed in a plane crash. The tribute's happening tonight in a tight-knit community.
We are waking up in Marshalltown at 5:45 this Friday morning. It's a gorgeous view, very calm, more clouds in the sky. Can't see them yet, but we will once the sun starts to brighten up our skies. As far as the temperatures, not going to see the sun warm these up like we have over the past couple of days. Low 80s and upper 70s across the state, as we also see some isolated rain chances mainly in the afternoon and going into the evening, and also overnight tonight. Mostly cloudy to the west, not going to see much of the rainfall, so it's going to be mainly dry over Corning, Greenfield, Guthrie Center, Audubon. Temperatures a lot of the same, low 80s. Same story for the northwest, Rockwell City, Fort Dodge, Algona. Dry will be the story for later on this afternoon. Now, once we shift a little bit further east, like Grundy Center, Marshalltown, Toledo, low 80s, more clouds, better chance for rainfall, especially to the southeast. And that's also where we're finding those upper 70s. That's going to be a little bit cooler in Albia, Centerville, Corydon, even getting as far as Newton, Grinnell area. The chance of rainfall, I'll be going over the timing and exactly where that's going to be reaching in less than 5 minutes.
Well, today, a school district in Hamilton County will honor 2 Iowans who died in a plane crash just last week.
Owen Renault recently graduated from South Hamilton High School, and at tonight's football game for them, t-shirts will be sold, and that money will go toward a scholarship fund in his honor. He and his uncle, Jesse Osmeyer, died when their plane crashed into an Indiana cornfield. 2 others were killed, including Braden Hicks. His widow says he died doing what he loves.
There's certain rules about getting close to the clouds, but he would always get me as close as he could because they look so different and they're so special.
Oh, beautiful memories living on through her. Megan Hicks says one of Braden's early students is now pursuing a career as an airline pilot.
Well, the city of Bondurant has new technology to try to save lives. First responders there got some LifePak 35 cardiac monitors. They have several different functions that help in emergency treatment for people really of all ages. Bondurant Emergency Services says it's the first in the state to receive this special model.
Interesting, because cardiac arrest is one of the leading causes of death for men and women. So the more it helps.
Really save some lives. Well, heads up if you have asthma. Iowa doctors say peak week is just a few days away.
Another thing to perk up your ears about. The third week of September is typically when the U.S. sees the most asthma attacks and hospitalizations. Dr. Shaw at Mercy Pulmonology Clinic says common triggers include the growth of ragweed in the fall and then the start of cold and flu season. They just kind of come together, and it means bad news. He says there are some things you can do, though, right at home to cut down your risk.
Keeping the humidity settings a bit low, such as a humidity less than 50%, is important because a lot of the mites as well as the mold can grow in high humidity.
So he also recommends keeping floors and carpets clean to help with all of this, and check if your vacuum has a HEPA filter. He says they help remove dust, pollen, even mold and other airborne particles that can impact your breathing.
A lot of Iowans have trouble breathing around this time. Well, we're 11 months away from the Iowa State Fair next year, and now we know the theme for the biggest event in the state. It's Fair Sweet Fair instead of Home Sweet Home. Next year's fair will run from August 7th through the 17th. This last year, the Iowa State Fair broke the all-time attendance record with more than 1.18 million people going through the gates, and some folks are already looking forward to next year.
Challenge accepted.
Done. Well, the competition got really heated last night at Valley Junction Farmers Market.
Heated. See what you did there. Some local celebrities, we'll call them, including a few familiar faces here at KCCI, had to eat some pretty hot peppers.
Suffer. Ben Kaplan and Jason Sudeiko, they're eating that last pepper.
That's right. They're so hot, they're wearing gloves. Someone in the crowd was hoping they'd struggle with the spice. And KCCI's Jeff Dubroff emceed this event. A lot of fun to be had, but also a few sweat dribbles down the head. They said it was pretty darn hot, but then there was like this pro crew that came in right behind them, and they were dealing some real hot peppers.
It can get really hot really quickly if you're not careful. How about the forecast? What's the temperature today?
Yeah, well, not going to be above, not to be too above average, not hot, not like those peppers. Give me some milk. I saw there was even some milk on the table, much needed. I mean, that's what you need to counterbalance that heat. As far as the clouds to return today, not going to see the temperatures climb as much. So the heat staying at bay. We'll see a little bit more of those rain chances with the clouds as we continue with a little bit more of the cloud cover and more of the rain chances. And then also humidity on the rise. We'll see more of that as we get into the weekend. Not so much for today. Kind of going to still have a pretty comfortable one underneath the clouds. Future temperatures going through the rest of this morning back into the 70s by the noon hour and even in the afternoon. A lot of us holding on to those 70s and then other parts getting into those lower 80s. We aren't going to be too much on the warmer side like we've had over the past couple of days. And then for the rest of the evening, we are going to be right back into the 70s and 60s. So getting those kids off to school, cloudy and dry for the morning, and then the isolated shower possibility as we get into this afternoon, mainly deeper into the afternoon, especially for the evening time frame. So if you do have any plans outdoors,